What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're going to do an NFL mock draft. It's early April. It's draft season. It's my favorite time of the year. And as a Jets fan, most of my fandom is covering the NFL draft. I'm a sicko for it. I absolutely love the draft. Now, I will say this is a fantasy football channel. So I say welcome back. It's probably more of a welcome for a lot of you guys just searching NFL mock draft. Now, my perspective is mock drafts and draft coverage is kind of more of a passion for me. It doesn't put money in my pocket or anything, but it is something I love to do, so much so to the point where I enter myself into mock draft competitions on the Huddle Report. Everybody who's anybody enters this. I think that there's Lance Zierlein, Daniel Jeremiah, Trevor Sikkema. Every guy that's doing mock drafts and doing it big is usually on these accuracy contests. And this isn't really to puff my chest. It's really just to say my number one priority is just trying to be as accurate as possible in predicting what the teams are going to do, not what I will do. So much so that in 2022, we actually had a three-way tie for the most accurate mock draft in 2022. A little bit of a down year in 2023, but we did finish here tied for 30th overall, which isn't that bad. So we're going to try and do that again this year. We're skipping the intro. We're skipping the nonsense. We're getting right into it. We're going to have some trades. Again, this is what I think will happen as of today, not what I would do. Things are going to get a little bit wacky here, and we'll probably rein things back in when I do this again the week of the NFL draft to submit for the accuracy contest. Now, first up, we have the Bears. We don't really have to overthink this one. I believe they'll go Caleb Williams. They've pretty much had it set in stone. You have Keenan Allen coming out at his pro day. Nothing else really needs to be said. They trade away Fields. I think that he's minus 8,000 to go first overall as of today. Now, the second pick is where things get weird. We have new ownership in Washington. We have GM Adam Peters, who I don't even know really what he's up to. I think he comes from San Francisco. I think they have some people in that front office from a basketball background, or they have kind of like ownership from there. So they're all over the place in terms of what they can do. I think we're getting a lot of steam right now of J.J. McCarthy to Washington. I think May could go there. I think Daniels could go there. By the way, that Adam Peters GM was actually part of the regime who took Trey Lance after San Francisco put all these smoke screens out of Mac Jones. Could that be the same thing here with J.J. McCarthy? I tend to think so. You can sort of look at things however you want to, where they get Mariota, they have Cliff Kingsbury, which would lend itself air raid offense to Jaden Daniels. Marcus Mariota, rushing quarterback, so is Jaden Daniels. You can say, oh, well, they traded away Sam Howell. Maybe they don't want that awkward connection of UNC with Drake May, or maybe they were actually trading him away because they're not going to take Drake May, and that could have maybe been a familiar face for him. Regardless, if you trade away Sam Howell, you are making it known to everybody, this is a quarterback at 2. They're not trading down. So I have, as of right now, I'm going to have them taking Jaden Daniels. Again, I think he's a good fit with what Cliff Kingsbury does. I think that analytically, right? I think this is an analytical minded front office as of right now, what we're looking at. And Jaden Daniels is going to pop in a lot of that because of how crazy his final season was. Now, after that, we have the Patriots. And this is where it gets a little bit wacky here because a lot of different things can happen. Another wild card, which you're going to get with these top teams because a lot of them have turnover, their front office gets changed up, whatever. Gerard Mayo, they have like an acting general manager. I think his name's Elliot Wolf, but they don't have like a named GM. Robert Kraft has his hand in the mix. I tend to think that the Patriots trade down here because for this reason, and I've heard a lot of people say, well, the Patriots are in a spot to grab a quarterback, and when you don't have one, usually you're going to take one in the top 5 to 10. And that makes a lot of sense. But with a new coach in Gerard Mayo, I don't think he feels a ton of pressure to take a quarterback, right? Like he doesn't have to turn things around right away. He said in a press conference when they were talking about why he wasn't spending a lot of money in free agency, he wants to build this thing the right way is what he's been saying. It wouldn't shock me at all if they kind of see what the Lions are doing and see that similar approach of like, let's not take a swing on a quarterback first. Let's build around him first. So in this scenario, I'm going to have them trading back. Could they absolutely stick here and take Drake May or take J.J. McCarthy? Absolutely. But for this mock, we're going to have them trading down, and we're going to have the Minnesota Vikings come up. Now, big fat disclaimer, the fattest of disclaimers here with a PH. I am not a draft compensation expert. Okay, so the way that I structure these trades, they really don't matter. It's more so that a trade happened. Exactly what the picks are and the calculations of that, I couldn't tell you. But I think how the Patriots move down is if the Vikings waive 11-23 in that 2025 round 1 pick. Now, with that being said, the Patriots would probably have to throw something back their way. The debate would be how much that would be. For just to be conservative here, I'm going to have them sending back their next year's third. 52% to be accepted, which is I guess that's a pretty even trade. And they accept. So with the Vikings, we now have the debate here. Do they want McCarthy? Do they want May? I'm going to go May. You have the connection there with Josh McCown. Josh McCown's the QB coach for the Vikings. He coached Drake May in high school. I could see this being a match made in heaven. Drake May in this offense with Kevin O'Connell. You have Justin Jefferson there. So Drake May is a direction we'll go. Now, this is where it gets interesting because I know a lot of people are going to say, well, maybe somebody trades up for J.J. McCarthy. And this is where this mock actually gave me some issues. This outline took a while to write up, or this mock to kind of put together, because if the top 3 goes this way, you no longer have the Vikings, because let's say the Patriots take Drake May, then you have the Vikings likely trading up to one of these, 3 or so spots to get J.J. McCarthy. Well, if the Vikings don't take J.J. McCarthy, there's not another team that's heavily linked to him. It could be the Broncos. Maybe the Patriots could pull something crazy where they trade back into the top 5, but if that's the case, they probably just take a quarterback. So I don't have the Cardinals trading back, even though it's very popular. You could see them trading back, doing something crazy. A video is going around that's really good of the Cardinals GM working the phone lines last year to trade. I think they traded out of the 2 or 3 spot, came back up to get Paris Johnson. But at this point, last year was a wash. This year, they have Kyler Murray healthy. They lost Marquise Brown. They traded away Rondale Moore. So I'm going to have them taking Marvin Harrison Jr., just going to sit in the pocket and take him. Now, this is where it's weird. I could very much see a Denver or Las Vegas trading up, but they're both in the division with Chargers. So I don't think that it would make sense. Interdivision, you don't want to let someone in your division trade up for a quarterback. That's very, very rare. So I have the Chargers sitting here. They could take Neighbors. They could take Alt. They could trade back, but again, I don't really know who the suitor would be. So I like the idea. Now, this is going to sound crazy. Now, I will say for these accuracy contests, you get most of your points for getting the right pairing, a player on team, not so much the exact number. So that's really what I'm shooting for with a lot of these. Could the Chargers trade back somewhere? Sure. And secure Brock Bowers, which is what the direction we're going to go in here? Sure. But here I'm going to have them take Brock Bowers at 5. And hear me out. There's a positional value thing of course, GMs now don't want to take tight ends top 10. You have to pay them as if they're a top 10 player at their position right out the gate because tight ends don't make a bunch, altogether. And then you're paying this guy the 5th overall pick contract, which is already a pretty high contract to pay for a tight end. The Chargers came out of cap hell. I get all of that. But I do think Jim Harbaugh, in a way, might just say, screw all of that. Jim Harbaugh doesn't really think that way. I don't think he's really going to care about positional value. I think he's going to see a guy who gave his defense, I think it was 5 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown in a college football playoff game as a true freshman when Georgia won back-to-back national championships. He's seen Brock Bowers be one of the most dominant players in college football for the last 3 years. I could see him falling in love with that. He helps them as a passing game, weapon, and then also on the offensive line because he can block really well. You've also seen those 49ers teams he used to coach had Vernon Davis. He had a guy this year that's actually going to be a fun prospect next year. What's his name? Colston Loveland. He's a 6'5", 230-pound tweener tight end that was Michigan's second leading tight end. You could see him being a similar option for the Chargers. So I really like Brock Bowers to the Chargers. If you want to make the case that they trade back and take him later, go ahead. But my main concern of that I think that the most likely would be that the Chargers trade back with the Jets, because if they trade further than the Jets will be taking Brock Bowers if he's there, or 50-50 chance, but I don't think that they would gamble. So that's where it gets tough. And I don't think the Jets would come up to 5 unless Marvin Harrison Jr. was on the board. So you would need quarterbacks the first 4 picks for the Chargers to trade back and also secure Brock Bowers. So that's where it gets tough for me. Now, after that, we're going to go Malik Neighbors to the Giants. I could see Rome here just because maybe he's more of a boundary, true X wide receiver, whereas Neighbors is a little bit more, I wouldn't call it projection, but he's a little bit more he played half of his snaps in the slot, half of them outside. He's younger. He's not going to be, he's not as pro ready. And I think that's fair to say, as much as I love Malik Neighbors. But, the Giants have history with LSU wide receivers. Why not take Neighbors there? Is J.J. McCarthy in question here? Sure. But when you give Daniel Jones that huge contract and then you sign Drew Lock, like, you're putting so much resources towards quarterback. I get it's the most important position, but at the same time, at a certain point, you have to stop, like, stepping up to the plate and swinging on quarterback. And you kind of have to accept the bed you've made and start building out the rest of your team. I think that's what they do here with Malik Nabers. Now, after that, we have the Titans. The Titans is pretty easy. Best offensive line prospect since Penei Sewell and Joe Alt. They grabbed wide receivers, they grabbed wide receivers, they grabbed running backs in free agency, they trade for L'Jarius Sneed, they get Joe Alt here, cornerstone left tackle, makes a ton of sense for them. Now, I like the idea of another trade here. I told you again, we're usually in both of the mock drafts I've submitted the previous 2 years I've been doing this, neither of them have trades in it. You'll see, like, when I do it on that final week, I probably won't have a trade. I usually like to keep it the way it is, because right now we're doing a bunch of changes to get crazy because there's probably going to be a couple pre-draft trades. We'll see. So for now, we're going to have the Falcons move back. We'll have the Jets leapfrogging the Bears, who are a serious threat to take Rome Odunze. The Jets at this point, everybody's seat is hot. Saleh, Douglas, Hackett, Rodgers. Things need to happen this year, or in 2025, everyone's probably gone. So I don't think that they mind paying their future second that they probably won't even be here for to move up 2 spots to secure a wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers. They take Rome Odunze here, a true, X to go along with Garrett Wilson, who's more of your like slot flanker, smooth operator type wide receiver. And they have legit weapons now for Rodgers. Now, would offensive line be in play? Sure. But again, I think that they're really of the mindset of like, sure, could you make the case that from a team building perspective, should they sit at 10 and just take an Olu Fashanu and just build the offensive line? Sure. But again, I just don't think that this front office and just regime in general has the leeway to even really care about 2025. So here they're going to take Rome Odunze, a guy who can contribute right away. And then I have the Chicago Bears taking Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. He was a high school teammate with Caleb Williams, and I kind of like them taking after what the Texans did with Stroud, where he really wanted Tank Dell, so they went out and got Tank Dell. The familiarity and just kind of like giving your quarterback things he wants or, familiar faces, I think it helps a ton. Fashanu gives them that. They do have a guy named Braxton Jones who's been like pretty damn good for a day 3 pick at left tackle, but maybe they see him more as like a swing tackle if players go down, someone that can kick inside. Fashanu is also someone that could benefit from maybe sitting out a little bit and developing. So this is more of a projection here, but they want to protect the quarterback they just made a massive investment in. Now, after that, we have Atlanta via the Jets. I could see this being a bunch of players. I could see the Atlanta Falcons trading down even further. I think it's very clear it is one of 5 players for them. The issue is that all 5 of them are available at 10 here, and I don't think that feels good for them. But they want, most likely in my eyes, I would see Jared Verse, Laiatu Latu, Dallas Turner, 3 edge guys, and then Quinyon Mitchell and Terrion Arnold, 2 corners. All 5 are available. Could they trade back again? Sure, but here I'm going to have them stay in the pocket and take Dallas Turner, a guy who ran 4.4 speed, 40-inch vertical, murdered the combine. Raheem Morris, defensive coach that they brought in, could very easily see Dallas Turner being the first guy off the board for them. Now, a lot of you guys are going to say this is a really steep fall for J.J. McCarthy. And I agree. But again, we're trying to pair teams with players. So I kind of like this idea where the Vikings end up with May and the Patriots end up with J.J. McCarthy. Will it happen at 11? I don't know. Could it be something where like the Patriots come back up, or maybe the Patriots take J.J. McCarthy here, and then this would be, you could talk me into this, where this would be where the Patriots move up with the Chargers and take McCarthy here, and then maybe Bowers comes down here to the Chargers. I could definitely see that. But again, first-year regime, do we think that the Patriots work the lines like that? I'm not sure. But regardless, we're going to have the Patriots ending with J.J. McCarthy, whether that means that they traded back up or not. I like the fit. They have time to develop McCarthy. They traded back, so they accumulated some capital for him. And He is somebody that probably embodies like the Patriot way or whatever they want. He's a Michigan man. Brady went to Michigan. The more I look at it, the more I like J.J. McCarthy to actually be who the Patriots want. Now, if they take him at 3 or if they move back, I really do not know. Now we have the Broncos. I could see them just sitting here and taking Bo Nix, to be honest. Bo Nix fits their offense really well. But I got to think that they're a little bit smarter than thinking that they need to take him there. I think that Bo Nix makes a lot of sense on the Broncos, but more in the back half of the first round. So we're going to have a trade here. Someone who is very aggressive with trades has been Howie Roseman from the Eagles. We'll have the Eagles come up. Again, compensation, I really don't know. But we're going to do the 22nd and the 53rd for the Broncos 12 and their 121. And that's like decently close. So the Eagles come up and they take Talise Fuaga. Also, if I butcher any of these names, like, sue me. I will also say, note, if you're a fan of one of these teams and you like vehemently disagree or you think that someone else could have gotten taken there, let me know. I'm always very curious if like you're plugged in on your team and you think they're going to go a different direction. Let me know because I will factor that in for my final mock draft. It's always good to get different perspectives. But Fuaga for Philadelphia, they had some capital to mess around with. He is someone that can play right guard, which they need right now because I think their right guard kicking into center to replace Kelsey. The right guard's pretty brutal right now. Fuaga played right tackle in school, but a lot of people think that he could play guard. So he could start out at right guard on day one, and then when Lane Johnson eventually retires, he could kick back out. Eagles always build through the trenches. To me, it makes a ton of sense. Now, after that, we're going to go Terrion Arnold. It seems like the Raiders are pretty locked in on a corner at this point. I got to think that with Antonio Pierce, the Alabama, DNA or whatever you want to call it, really fits the vibe that Pierce is going for. So I'll take Terrion Arnold. I will say I don't watch the tape. I don't know these players. I do find it interesting how Arnold has leapfrogged Kool-Aid McKinstry over the last year, but I'm sure guys who like watch film and scout the corners know better than me. I know that Arnold tested better, but McKinstry was also hurt during his workouts. Now, at number 14, we have the Saints. Their GM is Mickey Loomis, who's been around for a long time. He always does his own thing. We've seen it before where, who have they drafted in the past? They drafted Marcus Davenport, which was like a weird pick. Trevor Penning, which was like a weird pick. They always kind of do weird things. So here we're going to have them doing something a little bit weird. They do love these like massive like combine warriors. So we're going to go Amarius Mims, someone who is very raw as a tackle. Didn't have a ton of starts at Georgia, but he is, if we click on his thing, what is he? 6'7", 340, 21 years old. Monstrous. Moves well, all the stuff you want. They have Penning already, who's been pretty brutal, and then Ryan Ramczyk, who had a pretty bad injury last year. Mims can play either side. He's been on record saying, so I don't mind that fit at all. Now, with the Colts here. Now, fellas, I do a little bit of research on this. 90%, shout out to at CleveTA. I think it's CLEVTA on Twitter. He has a really cool thing that shows like GM tendencies. And Chris Ballard, the Colts GM, 90% of his first and second round picks since 2019 have been in premium position. So that is corner, quarterback, wide receiver, tackle, and edge. And their average relative athletic score has been 9.1 for those picks. Here I have them taking Quinyon Mitchell, who is a corner, so he's a premium position guy, 9.8 RAS, that hits their thresholds. And that also kind of makes up to their fan base that's a little bit salty that they were so heavily involved in the L'Jarius Sneed rumors and then came up empty. So they kind of make up for it there. Now, after that, we have the Seahawks. They just brought in Ryan Grubbs, the Washington offensive coordinator, and I could see them taking Troy Fautanu. He is someone that can play. He can apparently play everything. He can play guard, center, tackle, wherever you need him. He's going to pick up the offense quick. The Seahawks need offensive line help. I think he kicks inside, starts day one. Perfect fit for them. After that, you have the Jaguars, who I think they're going to, I think corner is in the mix for them. But if Terrion Arnold and Quinyon Mitchell aren't there, I can see them trading back for a team that needs tackle and then taking a like Nate Wiggins or Cooper DeJean later on. Here I have them staying in the pocket. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is the one guy that they would stay and just take regardless. So that's what we're going to have them doing here. They lose Calvin Ridley. Last year, their offense kind of regressed. You want to get weapons around your quarterback. That's what Brian Thomas gives them. Just a, speedy, deep threat. A little bit of a clashing skill set with a guy like Gabe Davis, but I think it would work out for them where Brian Thomas Jr. could kind of play. Gabe Davis could be more Zay Jones, whereas Brian Thomas Jr. could be more of like a number one true wide receiver for them. After that, you have Cincinnati. It seems like a lot of the guys who cover Cincinnati seems that this is going to be, or believe this will be offensive line. I know that they went out and they signed Trent Brown. If I was them, I would probably start building on like defense or something. Maybe take a look at a wide receiver, but Bengals fans and Bengals media are so firm on this that I'm just going to believe them. So we're going to take J.C. Latham, someone who has, he actually had like over 100 snaps, I believe, in his freshman year at right guard. Huge pedigree out of Alabama. You could see the Bengals kick him inside to guard for a little bit because they do have Trent Brown and Orlando Brown Jr. on the other side. However, they sort of see fit with J.C. Latham. He could be a guy of the future. Joe Burrow, we've seen him have multiple injuries now over the years. You hate to see it. So they probably don't want this to be an Andrew Luck situation, and they're just going to throw offensive linemen at the problem. Now, after that, we have the Rams, where I think there's going to be defense no matter what. They lose Aaron Donald. Last year, their defense was awful. It comes down to if you think they're going to get a one-for-one Aaron Donald replacement, which could be Jerzon Newton. I don't know if I'm saying that name right. It could be Byron Murphy. But for me, I'm going to have them taking Jared Verse, someone who's probably slipping in this mock, if I'm being honest with you guys. He's an older prospect. He's like a 23-year-old guy. It's funny, we don't have a lot of intel on what the Rams like to do in the first round. They haven't picked in the first round since Jared Goff, I think, because of how much they're just like team F those picks. So they'll take Jared Verse here. He's good. I could see him going as early as like number 8 to the Falcons, right? This is where the Falcons were. I could see him. I don't think he falls past the Rams, though. They get someone opposite Byron Young on that defense. He's really good, but again, it could be more interior. But I think that they have, Kobe Turner, so I don't know how much urgency there is to fill that need. Now, after that, we have the Steelers. They have holes at center. They have holes at tackle. If Latham didn't go, I could have seen them taking Latham or a Mims, but here I'll have them staying put and taking someone that, look, I don't watch offensive lineman film, but he was this like nasty like mauler at the Senior Bowl. I could see Mike Tomlin seeing shades of the Pouncey twins with Jackson Powers Johnson. He can start day one at center. Right now they don't have anybody. I think they have like Nate Herbig or something who like is a guard center tweener. So here, day one, Jackson Powers Johnson, giving Artie Smith some interior offensive line to work with. We know, he built a really nice offensive line in Atlanta. So boom, we have that. Now, Miami's a tough one. I'm so tempted every time to give them Xavier Worthy just because, McDaniel's going to love those fast players. You've seen him with Achane, Tyreek, Waddle. But he does kind of have like a similar skill set to a guy like Waddle and Tyreek. Like I don't know what he really does for them. So I held off on it. Then that brings me to the trenches because they lose Rob Hunt. Teron Armstead's been up and down and hurt. Other side of the line, Christian Wilkins is gone. And you have Bradley Chubb and you have Jalen Phillips, both recovering from ACLs and Achilles, which is like absolutely brutal. So I think it's going to be trenches. Kind of comes down to what you think they'll do. I could easily see them going offensive line like a Graham Barton. I could see Graham Barton. I could see Jordan Morgan. I could see really any of these guys. But I've seen Byron Murphy get like top 15 buzz. I think he's someone that's going to go higher than we think. He slips a little bit here, so we'll take him at 21. Now, the Broncos are up here. I had them looking at Bo Nix early. Here I have them taking Bo Nix. I could see it happening. They could maybe stick at 12 and take whoever they want and then trade back up into the first to grab Bo Nix. I think they're going to want the fifth-year option, and I think that he does fit what Sean Payton wants to do, where Sean Payton loves kind of operating on the underneath routes and the quick outs and flats, and Bo Nix succeeded at that his entire career at Oregon. He's 24, 25 at this point, so he can start right away if Sean Payton so pleases. Now, after that, we have New England. They took J.J. McCarthy in this mock. We're going to have them protecting him right away, and they're going to take Jordan Morgan, a guy who played left tackle at Arizona. He's athletic. Their next pick is number 34, so I could see them at that pick taking a wide receiver or going defense. Tackle's going to dry up here in a second, or just offensive line in general, so I have them taking one at 23. And the reason it's going to dry up because we have the Cowboys and the Packers up next. With the Cowboys, they lost Tyron Smith. I have them looking to fill that hole right away with Tyler Guyton. I don't have a ton of analysis of the offensive line or the trench guys, fellas, but he's supposed to be like a big athletic guy out of Oklahoma. He could come in right away and be whatever they're looking for. I know they have I think they have like Terrence Steele or something. They have guys who like play guard and tackle. They might want one of them to kick back inside the guard. So Guyton gives them some tackle guard flexibility there. You could certainly talk me into a guy like Graham Barton to come play center because they did lose Tyler. Damn it, dude. These names. I think it's like Tyler Biadasz or Biadasz. Now, after that, we have the Packers. Seems like interior O-line makes a lot of sense for them. So to me, we'll get them Graham Barton, who probably is hanging around. This is probably right around where he should go, but Graham Barton in these like 20s is where he's going to go. He can play center. Some people think he can play guard. He played left tackle while he was at Duke, so he's a nice plug-and-play guy. Then we have Tampa Bay. And I had Todd Bowles in New York for a while. He loves taking edge rushers whenever he can. I want to say Quentin Coples was under his watch, if anybody remembers him. But I could be wrong. I could be way off with that. But he does like adding to the trenches, especially on the defensive line. They added Kalijah Kancey last year. I could see it being Laiatu Latu, or I could see it being Chop Robinson. I'm going to have them go Chop Robinson, athletic freak, edge guy, just sort of the classic Todd Bowles archetype. Now, we have the Cardinals. I am thinking of someone, I think it's going to pick up some steam. By the time we get to the end of the draft, this could be somebody that maybe gets buzzed to like go inside the top 20, and that's going to be Cooper DeJean. He's been hurt, but he has like this electric playmaker. He can play like slot, perimeter corner. He can play safety. He's really great at special teams, just like returning kicks and punts. I could see this being offensive line. I could see this being, defensive line as well for the Cardinals, but I do think Gannon at some point speaks up and says, hey, can we put a pick on the defensive side of the ball, and Cooper DeJean can help them wherever they so please, move him around all the time, and give Gannon something to work with on that side of the ball. Then we have Buffalo, who lost Stephon Diggs today. I think wide receiver is for sure going to happen. I would love Xavier Worthy for that Josh Allen deep ball, but I just don't think it's going to happen. They have like Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir. Not that Xavier Worthy is like a slot, like boring receiver, but those like dynamic smaller guys, they already have that. I think that they're going to want a true perimeter X, and that is A.D. Mitchell. Crush the combine, should be a first-round pick. And then after that, we have Detroit. Well, I could see them going with the hometown kid of Newton here, but I'm going to have them passing on that. I think they're going to go Kool-Aid McKinstry. Kool-Aid McKinstry gives them some cornerback help. It didn't work out with Denzel Ward, or no, not Denzel Ward. It didn't work out with Jeff Okudah. And they get Kool-Aid McKinstry, who's like kind of a post-type sleeper, where he was like a highly touted recruit, projected top 10 pick after like his first year or two, and then kind of fell off a little bit this year. But they grab him. Maybe, this is like putting my tinfoil hat on here, but maybe he popped on the Brian Branch tape, a guy who they drafted last year, also in that Alabama secondary. They get Kool-Aid McKinstry here and build their defense up. Then we have Baltimore. I could easily see a trade back for Baltimore, where they trade back and they take an offensive lineman, whether that be, a tackle or something, on day 2. But for now, I have them staying put and taking someone that I think is like a fringe first rounder. But I'm going to have them take Kingsley Suamataia. I think he can play both sides. They lost Morgan Moses, they lost Simpson, and they lost Zeitler. They're 2 guards, and they're starting right tackle last year, all gone. I think this is offensive line no matter what. It just comes down to if they trade back or not, and like what tackles are available. Now with the 49ers here, we're going to have them stop the fall for Laiatu Latu, someone who is really good, but like medically retired from football at one point. So his medicals are going to be something worth talking about. He might fall out of the first. We've seen it before with, I think that was Jalen Smith out of UCLA. We've also seen in the past where Jalen Phillips had something interesting. Very weird that, Jalen Smith was out of Notre Dame. Jalen Phillips was out of UCLA, same school, I believe. Similar issue, UCLA and then Miami. And the Dolphins still took him in the first round. So I think Laiatu Latu is probably a first-round pick, probably late. But the crazy part is that I could see him going as high as number 8 again and being linked to Atlanta. So I really don't know. But here I have them slipping. Quietly, the 49ers have lost a lot of their defensive line. They lost Eric Armstead. Chase Young walked. And then Javon Kinlaw walked. Kinlaw wasn't really amazing for them, but they're a team that prides themselves on having a great defensive line. Here they replenish that with Laiatu Latu. And then you could talk me into 2 players here, one of them being Nate Wiggins to replace L'Jarius Sneed for the Chiefs. Instead, this is where I have them going Xavier Worthy. I would just be shocked if Xavier Worthy wasn't a first-round pick after breaking the combine record, right? Like, we've seen guys, I know that they were overdrafted, but at a certain point, we're talking, into the 20s here with Xavier Worthy. I just can't see him falling outside the first round. So we're going to have Xavier Worthy here. I think Andy Reid is drooling over what his offense could look like with Xavier Worthy. I think same thing with Mahomes. You have like the weird uncertainty of like the Rashee Rice stuff that just happened. So I don't mind that at all. So boom, there is the first round mock. You can take a look at it. Again, if you're a fan of a team, or maybe even not, and you just disagree with me, let me know why. You don't gotta say I got a big nose and I'm a dork or whatever. Just tell me, what do you think? It's still early in the process. We're gonna kind of lock things in last week of this month and submit it for the accuracy contest. But this is where I'm at right now. Again, just what I think is going to happen, not what I would do or how I evaluate any of these players. So regardless, I appreciate you guys watching. We won't, hold this up any longer. I appreciate the support. If you're not a fantasy football guy, just leave a like. That's all I really need. But if you do like the NFL draft, I imagine you probably have a fantasy football league out there. So feel free to subscribe. We do fantasy football all year round, dynasty, fantasy, best ball, all of that good stuff. But regardless, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm